Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the JAMODI podcast is powered by Biology. What's your BSA score? The Biology Skills Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NAIA, NJCAA, and a growing number of NCAA coaches to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 4-minute, 40-shot test can be taken free today on the Biology mobile app. Elevate your game. You are a defensive guru, and as you told me when you emailed me back, none of my questions that I send out to coaches really have anything to do with defense.
Every time you touched it, you just wanted the ball. You and Brian Blackburn are the same.
Well, in college, I had to change though, Coach. I had to shift because I couldn't score in college like I did in high school. So I'm two sides to that. But I'm going to ask you a question that is a first in the JAMODI podcast. I haven't asked anybody in over the 100 episodes I've recorded. So how do you create a dynamic defensive culture?
First and foremost, you can tell you how quick I believe in this is an instant answer. The weight room. That's where it all starts. And so it starts in the weight room because, your strength as an individual, and I can name you 10 players right now who this applies to. The most noteworthy would be Philip Forte. What you lack in athleticism, which in basketball, the primary athleticism is going to be your left to right quickness and your vertical quickness. That's the two big ones in basketball. Is how quick can you move, horizontally left to right, and how fast and quick can you jump vertically as far as height. So where you lack in athleticism, you make up for with strength. And so if you're not the fastest, quickest left to right guy defensively, then you better find a way to be so strong that you can legally hold. Am I allowed to say that? Hold your own and build a wall where people can't get by you. And then, of course, the head hunting and all that we call blockouts, head hunts, but the blockouts and things like that. And so our culture and every culture I've ever been a part of, including all the way back with Danny, even Jerry Havens at Louisville, when I first started coaching in 1996. And when I was in high school, there was no weight program. So, weights when I was in high school, that was not a thing. And now, as you know, there's no successful program that doesn't have a strength and conditioning program. But our defense starts in the weight room. And so we lift 3 times a week. We've got all types of stuff that we do in the weight room. We use Todd Wright, who used to be at the University of Texas, and then he followed Rick Barnes to Tennessee. We still use a lot of his sport-specific movement stuff. Most importantly, we use his predictive max. We don't do true maxes, but we get the kid. We have a ranking system. The strongest kid in the program's the Gold Star General, and then they wear those shirts, and it goes all the way down to the sergeant. If you're an officer, you break the 1,000, or you break a certain amount on your point system that we have. If anybody wants, I can share with them. But that all starts. So defense is here. It's all mental. Not a lot of people want to play defense. So we just started in the weight room because the weight room will show instant results. Like you'll see results instantly in the weight room. The mirror does not lie. So we push nutrition. We have a whole nutritional program for our players. That's another way I think we're different. By the way, you asked earlier, how are we different? Like we do seminars on nutrition, and we push it. Like our kids, since I've been at Boz, since the first month that I was there, I haven't seen one kid with a soda pop. Can't, like, every now and then candy, but they know they better not be caught with drink like soda pop, Cokes, and things like that. Most of our guys are carrying around jugs of water, so that's all a shift in mentality, and they'll start buying into that because they'll see results in the mirror. Everybody wants to look good, and a high school kid does, and so you'll get that mentality of them feeling good about themselves and feeling confident about themselves. And they used to weigh 110 pounds, and now we've got them up to 140, 150, 160, and then so now they feel mentally strong, and then you carry that to the court, and it's an easy transition. And so, we could sit here all day and talk defense, but if you want me to simply ask your question, where does that start? Where does the bulldog mentality on defense start? and that's no secret. It's nothing that I've done. It's every program does this. Is absolutely the weight room, 100%. At this point, our kids have total control of the weight room. Like we don't have to do much. They lead it. They're there on time for stretching. They get it in. They get it done, and that's just a big deal.
How long did it take you to get that culture in? Because you know, a lot outside. I think basketball players now are more open to lifting. You know, and social media's helped with
They
that.
all, yeah, they all are. No, I mean, I can sit here and talk all down it, but like, let me give you like an example. So they, they're all going to get strong. You can't not get strong if you're lifting. And so you got them on a routine. We'll spend the first, we don't do it anymore because we've now got that whole process started over 3 years. But, we started with Todd Wright's plate cycle, which I've been using for years to get their body balance right, their form right, their breathing right, everything like that. But anyway, once they start getting strong and now you're on the floor, they're going to get every 50-50 ball because you're going to tell them that's weak. Like that's weak sauce. Or I'll just yell weight room. Me and Coach Blackburn, if a kid gets blown by, off the dribble, if a kid gets out rebounded, if a kid misses a 50-50 ball or gets yanked away from it, we just have 2 words, weight room. That's all we'll say. And that's, everyone in there knows what we're saying. Like, you just, really, you're weak? Like, we're not weak. Are you kidding me? You're not weak. And so you don't have to say that very much because those kids, what it becomes is a fight. And so that's kind of what we're pushing for. Not a true fight, but an absolute battle for boards and loose 50-50 balls and shot contests and headhunting, blocking out every time. Those 4 things require no athleticism, none. Selling out on a shot contest, headhunting. We call blocking out headhunting. Blocking out your first step on defense because that's the most critical step. Your second step's not the most important step. The first step, either left or right on defense, is the absolute critical step. And so you don't have to be fast. You just have to be strong for one step. And so, all that transpires over onto our defense. And so once those kids start feeling good about themselves in the weight room, they start developing pride. And so you carry that over to our defense, and the same word pops up, pride. And so now they take pride in your defense when they start seeing that the defense is the weight room. You're not going to get by me because I'm stronger than you. You're not going to get out rebounded because I'm stronger than you. You're not going to get that 50-50 ball because I'm stronger than you, and I'm not going to miss a shot contest because I'm not weak. Like it's good. So in our pack line defense, those are just kind of gives you the 4 defensive examples of how the weight room mentally transpires over to the defensive side of it. And then we're hard on them on defense. I'm very hard on them because defense is easier to coach. Defense is, when I was the head coach at Duncanville, I realized real quick when you're the head guy and you're coaching both sides of the ball, offense is very, very subjective because the defense can change in any. If you're coaching offense, you have to be flexible. Are they running? Are they going to trap this possession? Are they switched over to a zone? They're manning. So offense is super subjective, and then defense is very objective. Defense is very rule. Our defense is very rule. It's all rules. It doesn't change much. Like we do what we do, and we're not going to change much. We'll change scout reports for scout reports, but it's black and white. So offense and defense are so very different. One is subjective, one's objective. And so because defense is so objective and rule oriented, we're very tough on them. Because if you break the rules, you're going to hear it. Offense. I mean, if North Crowley's trapping you out of the timeout, and you didn't expect it. I mean, no one broke the rules. You just, you know what I mean?
Well, offense too. I mean, a great possession doesn't always lead in a bucket. Because the goal of every offensive possession is to get the best shot as fast as possible with hopefully one of your best scorers taking it. But those best scorers aren't going to hit every time. But if you're resulting on every possession, so to me, offensively, at the offensive side, there is this kind of freer mindset of we can still be successful even though we're not seeing the results we want this time. But you're right, the defensive side, it's you either did it or you did not do it.
Yeah, I don't know many coaches who run defense that it isn't rule. I mean, no one runs a free pass defense. I mean,
only in the Grinnell system, which I did mess with that a little bit, but almost got me fired.
Or matchup zone or 1-3-1. There's all those things have rules, And so the defensive side of the ball is a little bit easier and more fun to coach because, in my opinion, Blackburn would argue it because Brian loves offense, but I can see very easily if you messed up. Whereas offense, that's not what is a mess up on a missed shot? I mean, you don't know there's so many different definitions.
Well, even and offensively, there's intent. Like if their intent is to do what you're wanting them to do, but yeah, like it. So I love that part of it and helping them work through that. Yeah,
Brian we don't want rules on offense, like because Brian is a very freedom offense guy. He wants players to make decisions and have the freedom to make mistakes, and yeah, we play two very different sides, and it actually me and him have to coordinate a lot together because our styles of play on both sides of the ball. Because pack line slows the game down.
Yeah.
Because it's harder to score. It better be harder to score on. And so,
without a shot clock, your goal is to keep them from having some type of advantage, right?
Yeah.
I want to ask you that question.
Guys, that was a high potent offense, but a lot of times our score, the score of our games, even on that number one nationally ranked team was, we'd win a game 50-30 or 48-36. And people are like, God, y'all just play slow. I'm like, no, it's like we just play such great defense. Those guys are playing 30, 40, 50, 60-second possession defense or offensive possessions against our defense. And so pack line slows the game down for sure. And that means you better have quality shots on offense. And so
how do you guys deal with that? Because over the years at Faith, I've experimented with a lot of different types of defenses. Offensively, we've pretty much been the same since day one. 12 seconds or less, best shot as fast as possible, and defining what that is. Defensively is where I've had to. We've been pressing sometimes constantly, no stops any part of the court, make or miss. Or then we've gone back to pack line. What I noticed is when we went to pack line, like you just said, our scores plummeted. And as a team that offensively wants to run and gun, I felt like my players were really struggling to do both if the styles were so different. So how do you guys deal with that?
Well, yeah, pack line's completely built on data. And so everything pack line's done is done on percentages. And so that's why it's called pack line. You're playing from the arc in, and pack line encourages the pull up. You want the ball to be put on the floor. So that's why we don't close out. We don't close out on shooters. We sell out. Like we're going to launch in the air because we want you to shot fake and put the ball on the floor. And so because the percentages drop immediately.
Right.
Second the floor in high school, that percentage drops almost 20%. So you're going from a 50%, a Phil Forte, Steph Curry type shooter, 48% 3-point shooter who shot fakes and brings it down, puts the ball on the floor to the pull up. You're now immediately dropping that percentage into 20%. So it's all data. Pack line's all data and percentage based, and so you're going to really force the offense to be patient, or you're gonna dominate them. But by forcing them to be patient, you're shortening the game. And so yeah, it does make it a little tougher. You just gotta at the end of the day. I don't know. You probably need to ask Brian this more, but he's like you. It's a 12-second rule, but with him, it's a very defined who's shooting it, where they're shooting it, and then time and score. So it's who's shooting the ball, where are you shooting it from, and then time and score. Those are kind of the driven, bullet points on whether or not we're going to shoot it in that 12-second time. He'll do whatever it takes to win. And so offensively, he switched up styles a little bit this year on offense, and we're gonna switch up some things on defense too a little bit. We're pack line all the way, but just try to find ways to put our kids in the best possible position to win games, because all of our games are going to be close. We're just not a team that is going to go out and blow people out.
Yeah.
So we got to find ways. Last year, we found ways to lose way too many games by 2, 3, 4 points, and that's just so discouraging. And so this year, it's all about defensively. Everybody's got to do their job every time, not just everyone's got to do their job every time. And then offensively, it's value the basketball. I mean, no turnovers. Value the basketball.
I think you did. You answered the question though, and you've said this all throughout our talk. How can a style like pack line and then offensively, what coach is trying to do, how can that work together? Well, it'll work if you win. Like if it helps you to win, it'll work. Your players will buy into it. Your players will believe that this is good and what you're doing it makes sense if you
Yeah.
win.
Here's the battle with pack line, and if anyone's ever run it, as long as I've run it, they'll know what I'm talking about. But the battle with pack line is not a defense that's built to beat a lot of your pre-district teams. It's just not. Pack line's built to beat the best teams in the state. That's what pack line is. It's built to have your 6'3" wing guy guard Fort Bend Travis's 6'8" guy. That's what pack line is. It's when you walk out on the floor and you've got a really good squad and you're playing Duncanville or somebody. Athletically, you're done. Like skill wise, you're probably we're done. Like we have no chance. Pack line defensively gives you that chance. It offsets the post advantage that they might have. It offsets the drive attack, the downhill drive attack by their best guards. It offsets that. 100% it does. It does. So that's what pack line's built for. The struggle that pack line presents itself is when you're playing teams that are as equal or maybe not as good as you, because you may not want to do pack line because you're going to slow the game down. If you're slowing a game down against a team that's not as good as you, you're giving that team a better chance to win. And
so, you want more possessions if you're the better team.
And that's what me and Brian are toying with right now. This year, what are we going to do different? And so, but our staple is still pack line. I'm a huge believer in it, and so
I get that. Your dynamic that you two have is unique. Wes Watson and I had that at McKinney where he gave me the offense. He was the defensive guy, but luckily he wanted to press. So my dribble drive, running down, shooting threes really worked well together. But here at Faith, I've been, I'm the only full-time guy. All my other assistants are part-time. So I'm very thankful for the time that they give. But the decisions a lot of time of what we're doing is up to me. And so I felt this conflict with those years we were doing pack line and even some 3-2 at times, but a very condensed 3-2. I'm telling you, Coach, like I was sitting there on the bench watching offensive possessions from the other team go for 45 seconds to a minute, and you would be proud of how we were closing off things. They just couldn't do anything, couldn't run. But I'm staring at the clock, and I look over at my assistant coach, and I say, we're playing too good of a defense right now. And he looked at me with this, like, he's a defensive guy, but a look of horror. But my whole idea is the other side of me that wanted to get that ball back, so itchy to get it back, was dying inside, and it was hurting that side of the game. So there is this, like, you guys, the way that you created the dynamic between the two of you and made it work, to me is really unique. It's taken me some time to find a defensive style that I'm comfortable with, that I think allows us to get the stops that are necessary to win games, but it accelerates and feeds into what we want to do offensively. But it took me 7 years to get there.
Pack line probably works best with teams that run a secondary break. Look, they're looking for a primary or a quick secondary, and if they don't get that, that's the 12 seconds basically, the primary plus secondary. Then you probably your best bet is to be a quick hitter team or a sets team, because if you're a continuity team, well, crap, you may take a minute to score. Well, then you're going to come. If you're a quick shooting team, well, crap, all you're doing is playing defense. So
the balance, 8-6 at halftime. Here we go.
Balance is a primary secondary break, and if you're not getting high quality shots out of it, then settle into a quick hitter, because quick hitter, which Brian likes it and doesn't like it, because he loves the freedom of the player. He loves teaching player. He loves doing player development from a mental standpoint, like how to do this if they do this. What do you do if they do this? And so he loves that. Let the players have the freedom of movement in an offense. And so when you're doing quick sets, you're the court. You're dictating who's shooting where.
You're joysticking. You're joysticking your players.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.